Hello, everybody. My name is Eric D. Johnson, also known as BrightShine, right here in the city of Memphis, in the county of State of Tennessee. Today's date is Sunday afternoon, August the 11th, 2024. The time is 12:31 p.m. First, say thank you to my family, my support for you, continue to encourage support, continue to keep myself employed in Memphis, tri-state area, continue to further my education, Monroe College Online, continue to pursue my social degree, studying being administrative, country, mark. Present time, took a break from going to school. In the future, I'm gonna go back to school. And I'm gonna continue to work toward earning my social degree as well as other degrees. Now, what I'm gonna do right now, I'm gonna start my Facebook Live. Hello, everybody. My name is Eric D. Johnson, also known as BrightShine, right here in the city of Memphis, in the county of State of Tennessee. Today's date is Sunday afternoon, August the 11th, 2024. The time is 12:32 p.m. First, say thank you to my family, my support for you, continue to keep myself employed in the Memphis tri-state area, continue to further my education, Monroe College Online, continue to pursue my social degree, studying being administrative, country, and market. Present time, took a break from going to school. In the future, I'm gonna go back to Monroe College Online. I'm just gonna continue to go to school, and I'm gonna earn my social degree as well as other degrees. Now, like I said, it's Sunday afternoon, and get started here. Now, over here on BibleStudy2.com, we have all available versions of the Holy Bible. Got like best known translations like the Holman Christian Standard Bible, the English Standard Bible version of the Bible, King James version of the Holy Bible, the Message Bible, New American Standard Bible, New International Version, New King James Version, New Living Translation, and the New Revised Standard Version of the Holy Bible. Then you have other translations, the modern, the Bible in basic English, common English Bible, the complete Jewish Bible, Good News Translation, Good Word Translation, Hebrew Names Version, New International Readers Version, Lexham English Bible, Jubilee Bible 2000, Orthodox Jewish Bible, Third Millennium Bible, World English Bible, Young's Literal Translation of the Holy Bible. You have older translations of the Holy Bible, the American Standard Version, the Darby Translation, Dewey Reams Catholic Bible, the Revised Standard Version, Tyndale Bible, the Latin Vulgate Bible, the Webster Bible, the Wycliffe Bible, New Testament only Bible, Spanish, Portuguese, French, German, Italian, Dutch, Chinese version of the Holy Bible. Now, let me click back over here. Now, like I said, we over here on BibleStudy2.com, and they have the Bible verse of the day, which is Psalms 119, verse 28, and it reads, "My soul is weary with sorrow. Strengthen me according to your word." And so, like I said again, that's the Bible verse of the day, coming from the book of Psalms, chapter 119, verse 28. And also, they have today's Bible reading coming from the book of 2 Corinthians, the 13th chapter, and also 1 Chronicles, verses 3 and 4, in the book of Zephaniah, the first chapter. So again, that's today's Bible reading on BibleStudy2.com. So let's click over here to Bible Gateway, and they have all available versions of the Holy Bible based on the language and the version, starting with from A to Z. Amharic, And we can just scroll through, like I said, from A to Z. You have an Arabic Bible, a Wadi, apparently there's in Indian, Bulgarian Bibles, in Native American Bible. They have a Cherokee Bible, that's a New Testament Bible. Welsh, Danish, German Bibles, English, a lot of English Bibles, Spanish, Persian, Finnish, French, Greek Bibles, Hindi Bibles, Croatian Bibles, and there's a Haitian Creole Bible, Hungarian Bibles, Hawaiian Bibles, Icelandic Bibles, Italian Bibles, Japanese Bibles, Korean Bibles, Latin Bibles, Uganda Bibles, Maori Bibles, Mam Bibles, Low German Bible, Nepali Bibles, Dutch, Norwegian, Chichewa Bibles, Oriya Bibles, West Central Oromo Bibles, Polish Bibles, Papal Bibles, Portuguese Bibles, and so, Romanian Bibles, Russian, Slavic Bibles, Somali Bibles, Albanian, Serbian, Swedish, Swahili Bibles, Tamil, Thai, Tagalog Bibles, and Twi, Ukrainian Bibles, Urdu Bibles, from A to Z, Vietnamese Bible, Yoruba Bibles, Chinese Bibles. I mean, that's a very beautiful thing. People from all over the world, the Holy Bible, from Old Testament, New Testament. And they had it, the Dead Sea Scroll discovery in 1946. Took 10 years for the Dead Sea Scroll to be completely discovered and everything. It took 10 years. From 1946 to 1956, 10 years for the whole Dead Sea Scroll to be discovered. And so, all the dating and everything processes, even, modern processes of dating. I mean, the Dead Sea Scrolls are very old. They talking about before BC. We talking about BCE. The Dead Sea Scroll, BCE, very old. And so, let me click back over here. Now, the Bible verse of the day, we on Bible Gateway. Bible verse of the day comes from the book of Psalms, chapter 119, verse 14. And it reads, I rejoice in following your statutes as one rejoices in great riches. So again, the Bible verse of the day on BibleGateway.com is coming from the book of Psalms, chapter 119, verse number 14. And they were reading from the New International Version. All right. Let me click over here. The names of God in the Old Testament. Elohim, Adonai, El Elyon, Jehovah, Shammah, Jehovah, Ra, the Lord my shepherd. Jehovah, Ra, and El Shaddai, Jehovah Jireh, and Jehovah Rapha. El Olam, and Jehovah Mikol Dishkim. Abba, our shepherd, and the Tetragrammaton. Jehovah Nissi, Jehovah Shalom. Jehovah Sekiknu. El Roy. Jehovah Sabaoth. Alpha and Omega. Ancient of Days. Those are names of God in the Old Testament of the Holy Bible. Now let's click over here to the New Testament names of God. Elohim. Elyon. And the Tetragrammaton. El. Jehovah Sabaoth. Christ. El Shaddai. Jehovah. Jehovah Shammah. God. Jehovah Sekinu. Emmanuel. Adonai. Jehovah Shalom. The Lord our banner. God who sanctifies. Abba. Those are names of God. Names of God in the New Testament of the Holy Bible. Now let me click over at this Tetragrammaton. Now we over on Wikipedia. Let me scroll down here. We have references, 5 of those citations. And we have sources as well as external links. All right. So like I said, we over on Wikipedia. You know, we can click over to the Encyclopedia Britannica or whatever. But like I said, we over on Wikipedia and Tetragrammaton. The Tetragrammaton from ancient Greek, or the tetragram, is the 4-letter Hebrew theonym. And theonym is a proper name of a deity. Transliterated as capital Y, capital H, capital W, capital H. Or capital Y, capital H, capital V, capital H. The name of God in the Hebrew Bible. The 4 letters written and read from right to left in Hebrew are Y-O-D-H, H-E, W-A-W, and H-E. The name may be derived from a verb that means to be, to exist, to cause to become, or to come to pass. While there is no consensus about the structure and etymology of the name, the form Yahweh or Yahweh is now accepted almost universally, though the vocalization Jehovah continues to have wide usage. The books of the Torah and the rest of the Hebrew Bible, except Esther, Ecclesiastes, and with a possible instance of, in verse 8-6, the Song of Songs, contain this Hebrew name. Observant Jews are those who follow Talmudic Jewish tradition, do not pronounce, nor do they read aloud proposed transcription forms such as Yahweh or Jehovah. Instead, they replace it with a different term, whether in addressing or referring to the God of Israel. Common substitutions in Hebrew are Adonai, my lords, pluralis, majestatis, taken as singular, or Elohim, literally gods, but treated as singular when meaning God in prayer, or Hashem, the name in everyday speech. Okay, then we have etymology. Now, we on etymology. The Hebrew Bible explains about formula produced. Okay, and transliterate I am that I am. The name of God revealed to Moses in Exodus 3:14. This would frame Y, capital H, capital W, capital H, as a derivation from the Hebrew triconsonantal root to be, become, come to pass, with a third person masculine Y, prefix equivalent to English he in place of the first person, thereby affording translations as he who causes to exist, he who is, etc. Although this would elicit the form capital YH, not capital YHWH. To rectify this, some scholars propose that the tetragrammaton represents a substitution of the medial Y for W, and occasionally attested practice in biblical Hebrew as both letters function as matrix lectionis. Others propose that the tetragrammaton derived instead from the triconsonantal root to be, constitute, with the final form eliciting similar translation as though derived from HYH. As such, the consensus among modern scholars considers that capital Y, capital H, capital W, and capital H represents a verbal form, with the Y representing the third masculine verbal prefix of the verb HYH, to be, as indicated in the Hebrew Bible. Now, when it comes to the vocalization, like all letters in the Hebrew script, the letters in capital Y, capital H, capital W, capital H originally indicated consonants. In unpointed biblical Hebrew, most vowels are not written, but some are indicated ambiguously, and certain letters came to have a secondary function indicating vowels, similar to the Latin use of I and V to indicate either the consonants J, W, or the vowel I, U. Hebrew letters used to indicate vowels are known as or matrix lectionis, mothers of reading. Therefore, it can be difficult to deduce how a word is pronounced from its spelling, and each of the four letters in the tetragrammaton can individually serve as a matrix lectionis. Several centuries later, between the 5th through 10th century Common Era, the original consonantal text of the Hebrew Bible was provided with vowel marks by the Masoretes to assist reading in places where the word to be read, the giri, different from that indicated by the consonants of the written text, the ketiv. They wrote the kiri in the margin as a note showing what was to be read. In such a case, the vowel marks of the kiri were written on the ketiv. For a few frequent words, the marginal note was omitted. These are called kiri perpetuum. One of the frequent cases was the tetragrammaton, which according to later rabbinic Jewish practices should not be pronounced, but read as Adonai, literally translate my lords, pluralis, majestatis, taken as singular, or if the previous or next word already was Adonai, as Elohim, God, writing the vowel diacritics of these two words on the consonants, capital Y, capital H, capital V, capital H produces, and respectively those words that will spell Yehovah and Yehovah, respectively. The oldest complete or nearly complete manuscripts of the Masoretic text with Tiberian vocalizations, such as the Aleppo Codex and the Leningrad Codex, both of the 10th or 11th century, mostly write Yahweh with no pointing on the first H. It could be because the O diacritic point plays no useful role in distinguishing between Adonai and Elohim, and so is redundant. Or it could point to the Kiri being, which is Aramaic for the name. Yahweh. The scholarly consensus is that the original pronunciation of the tetragrammaton was Yahweh. Reno agrees that when in the late first millennium, Jewish scholars inserted indications of vowels in the Hebrew Bible, they signaled that what was pronounced was Adonai, Lord. Non-Jews later combined the vowels of Adonai with the consonants of the Tetragrammaton and invented the name Jehovah. Paul Juin, and Takamitsu Muraka state the Kiri is the Lord, whilst the Ketub is probably, according to ancient witnesses, and they add note 1 in our translation, we have used Yahweh, a form widely accepted by scholars, instead of the traditional Jehovah. In 1869, Smith's Bible Dictionary, a collaborative work of noted scholars of the time, declared, whatever, therefore, be the true pronunciation of the word, there can be little doubt that it is not Jehovah. Mark P. Arnold remarks that certain conclusions drawn from the pronunciation of as Yahweh would be valid even if the scholarly consensus were not correct. Thomas Romer holds that the original pronunciation of Yahweh was Yahoo or Yahoo. Max Riesel, in The Mysterious Name of Yahweh, said that the vocalization of the Tetragrammaton most originally have been Yahuwah or Yahuwah. The element Yahweh is found in Amorite personal names. Yahweh, Dagon, commonly denoted as the semantic equivalent of the Akkadian. The latter refers to one existing which, in the context of deities, can also refer to one's eternal existence, which aligns with Bible verses such as Exodus 3:15, and views that can mean I am the existing one. It also explains the ease of Israelites applying the Olam, or everlasting, epithet from El to Yahweh. But J. Philip Hyatt believes it is more likely that Yahweh refers to a God creating and sustaining the life of a newborn child rather than the universe. This conception of God was more popular among ancient Near Easterners, but eventually the Israelites removed the association of Yahweh to any human ancestor and combined it with other elements. Yahweh. Hillel Ben Sasson states that there is insufficient evidence for Amorites using Yahweh to refer to a god. But he argues that it mirrors other theophoric names and that Yahweh, or more accurately, Yahweh, derives from the root in Peor, which means he will be. The adoption at the time of the Protestant Reformation of Jehovah in place of the traditional Lord in some new translations, vernacular or Latin, of the biblical Tetragrammaton stirred up dispute about its correctness. In 1711, Adrian Reland published a book containing the text of the 17th century writers, 5 attacking and 5 defending it. As critical of the use of Jehovah, it incorporated writings by Johannes van den Driesch, 1550 to 1616, known as Drusius, Sixtinus Amama, 1593 to 1629, Louis Capel, 1585 to 1658, Johannes Buckdorf, 1564 to 1629, and Jacob Atlin, 1618 to 1679. Defending Jehovah, or writings by Nicholas Fuller, 1557 1626, and Thomas Gattiker, 1574 to 1654, and 3 essays by Johann Leusden, 1624 to 1699. The opponents of Jehovah said that the Tetragrammaton should be pronounced as Adonai, and in general do not speculate on what may have been the original pronunciation, although mention is made of the fact that some held that Yahweh was their pronunciation. Almost 2 centuries after 17th century works, reprinted by Reland, 19th century Wilhelm Gesenius reported in his Thesaurus Philologicus on the main reason of those who argue either for or Yahweh as the original pronunciation of the Tetragrammaton, as opposed to Jehovah. He explicitly cited the 17th century writers mentioned by Reland as supporters of, as well as implicitly citing Johann David Michaelis, 1791, and Johann Friedrich von Meyer, 1772 to 1849. The latter of whom Johann Heinrich Kurtz described as the last of those who have maintained with great pernicity that was the correct and original point. Edward Robertson's translation of a work by Gesenius gives Gesenius' personal view as my own view coincides with that of those who regard this name as anciently pronounced Yahweh, like the Samaritans. So there's a lot of information about that Tetragrammaton, and it means that that's how serious this Tetragrammaton is. That's how serious it is. It's very sacred to the Jewish faith, people that believe in Judaism. And it's a lot of study. It's a lot of investigation and research into this Tetragrammaton. And so you had scholars who was investigating research, and you have scholars today that are investigating and doing research on the Tetragrammaton. It's very serious. Very serious. Now, anti-gay, anti-Gnostic, and anti-hazing. Also, adversus, heresies, translated mean against heresies. Saint Irenaeus, the Bishop of Lyons, together with Saint Ignatius, the Bishop of Antioch, they wrote a 5-volume book refuting Gnosticism, proving that Gnosticism was a heresy. And the title of their book was Adversus Heresies, and it translated mean against heresy. And also, Saint Athanasius, the Bishop of Alexandria, together with, in the year 367 AD, in his 39th Festal letter, Easter letter, banned all non-Christian writing. Saint Athanasius, the Bishop of Alexandria, together with all the other bishops in the Catholic Church, they went around and collected all that Gnostic theologian writing, and they destroyed it. Some of that Gnostic theologian writing didn't get destroyed. And it was discovered in 1946, where previously some of those codexes, some of that Gnostic theologian writing has been discovered. It was the Askew Codex, been discovered. The Bruce Codex also was discovered, and the Berlin Codex has been discovered. And also in 1946, the Nagamon Library was discovered by the little farm boy outside playing. And his father was a farmer, and there was a lot of things that were being done at the discovery of the Nagamon Library. As you know, Mr. DeRisi, as well as other scholars, were inquiring about it when they had heard about something like that being found. And so Mr. DeRisi and other scholars, they inquired about it, but they not have the Nagamon Library in their possession. And as you know, the nation of Egypt, there was a lot of government problems that they was having in Egypt. And the Nagamon Library has still not been put in the possession of the Egyptian Antiquities Department. It took a lot of years. Some group of scholars came over there. One scholar even lost his life, Mr. John, because they had acquired one copy of the Nagamon Library, and in the process of trying to get it, the man lost his life. And as you know, UNICEF had commissioned Mr. Robinson to get a group of scholars together. Once they eventually got the Nagamon Library in their possession, it had to be translated. And the Egyptian Department of Antiquities put the Nagamon Library in the museum in Cairo. And it had not been translated or anything of that nature. And so, like I said, UNICEF, they commissioned Mr. Robinson to get a group of scholars together to translate the Nagamon Library. And it took some years. By this time, it was like the late 60s. Then you go through the process of the 70s. None of the colleges and universities had a copy of the Nagamon Library because they had to be translated first. And then it took all the way up to the 1980s for the college and university to get a facsimile for them to be able to teach at the college and university around the world. And you know, the Nagamon Library has been used and misused. Gnosticism has been used and misused by the criminals to be self-destructive and destructive, trying to destroy nature and wildlife and the environment, trying to destroy the North and South Pole. Talking about the material world is evil. And also, St. Epiphanes of Salome, the Bishop of Cyprus, wrote a 3-volume book titled Panarian Greek, Panarian Latin. Translated means bread basket. The scholars at the college university all around the world said this St. Epiphanes of Salome, Bishop of Cyprus, 3-volume book is also adverse heresies, against heresies. And that's a serious thing about that Nagamon Library, because when you know that people didn't have it in their possession, people were going around talking about Gnosticism. They did not have the Nagamon Library in their possession. See, that's what criminals do. Organized crime. Go around and victimize men, women, and children by lying. That's what they do, lie. The Almighty, conservative, vice lord, four corner hustle. The Almighty, black, Prince Stone. The Almighty, Mickey, Cold, Stone, Cracker. The Almighty, black, disciple, Poppy. The Almighty Bluefin, black disciple, the black disciple. The Lord, Stone, disciple. Gangster, disciple killer, GDK. Glazed donut killer, GDK. 7-11, G killer, Goofy. And see, that's a serious thing, Lord Stone disciple. See, the history of the city of Chicago is very important. Very important. See, when you try to lie, and all you is just a sorry liar, because see, that's what I've been doing the whole time, exposing the liars. And so, Lord Stone disciple still Lord Stone disciple. See, when you thought you can get away with using the name of my life, when you thought you can use Gnosticism to lie, to victimize men, women, and children, So like I said, I'm going to take just a minute, just a few seconds. History is important. Lord Stone disciple is not dead. Lord Stone disciple is still Lord Stone disciple. Whatever you thought, see, that includes Lord Stone disciples. And that includes Mickey Cobra. You still a Mickey Cobra Stone. See, Lord Stone disciple is Lord Stone disciple. No narcissism, no Nagamon library, no Askew Codex, no Bruce Codex, no Berlin Codex, or anything else gonna change. A lie is a lie, and you can't stand on a lie. The history of the city of Chicago is important. I just haven't been watching this program on the YouTube channel. You know, the original OGs and everything. Pretty positive program and everything. And Minister Rico just was on there. Benny Lee was on there. Mr. Jimmy was on there. You know, telling the history of Lord Stone disciple. After doing a lot of years in prison, these men, after they did a lot of time in the prison and everything, got out of prison, their lives have been, spent in a penitentiary. Now they not in prison no more, as well as other men, Don Dirt, Killer Red, a lot of the disciples and everything spent time in the prisons. And OG Brick, Cowboy, he went to prison. OG, some of the original disciples. And things. Lord Stone disciple still Lord Stone disciple. That's what I'm gonna keep telling you over and over again. Every time I leave my video, I'm calling to tell you, Lord Stone disciple still Lord Stone disciple. You can't lie, because that's what you've been doing, lying. Because the men I just mentioned, I didn't leave nobody. I just happened to watch a little program and everything. OG, the original OG. And a lot of the men that been to prison, a lot of the lords and disciples, the Stones. I seen a YouTube video. Prince Waikita did time in the penitentiary. Now he's out of prison. You still the leader. You the leader. See, that's what I've been kind of telling you. Lord Stone disciple still Lord Stone disciple. You can't lie. That's what you've been doing, lying. That's who the leader is. Minister Rico. That's who the leader is. Killer Red, he the leader. Don Dirt, you the leader. Lord Stone disciple is still Lord Stone disciple. You can't lie. That's what you've been doing. Lying. Now I see that the Black Soul must whoever on this Chicago gang is they put another picture up here, but it's still the Black Souls. Like I said, I just the original OGs. And then, like I said, I think Larry Hoover's son, one of his sons, and Percy, King David Bosdale's son was on OG and things of this nature. Like I said, Lord Stone Disciple is not dead. Lord Stone Disciple still Lord Stone Disciple. Was and is still Lord Stone Disciple. You can't use no Nagma library and don't know what you're talking about, and then go around trying to commit all these crimes, trying to victimize men, women, and children. You can't do that. You can't lie. You can't lie to other people. People will kill you, man. That's why you're in the position you're in today. People want to kill you because you lied to them. See, you can't lie. That's who the leader is. That's the leader. That's the leader. Lord Stone disciple. That's the leader. Jimmy Lee. That's the leader. That's the leader. That's the leader. That's the leader. Lord Stone disciple. That's the leader. OG Benny Lee. That's the leader. Lord Stone Disciple. That's the leader. That's the leader. That's the leader. Lord Stone Disciple. That's the leader. OG Killer Red and OG Clip. That's the leader. See, that's the leader. OG Dirt and OG Brick. Lord Stone Disciple. OG Don Dirt and OG Brick. That's the leader. Lord Stone Disciple. See, that's the leader. OG Dirt and OG Brick. That's the leader. Lord Stone disciple. That's the leader. OG and Cowboy. That's the leader. Lord Stone disciple. That's the leader. Jeff Ford's son, Prince Waikita. He was at a mosque. It was about a year ago, about 10 months ago. That's the leader, Lord Stone disciple. That's the leader. Jeff Ford's son, Prince Waikita. That's the leader, Lord Stone disciple. That's the leader. And so, like I said, Lord Stone disciple is not dead. Lord Stone disciple is Lord Stone disciple. You can't you can't use no narcissism. Because first of all, you didn't know what you were talking about. And I don't have to say that. It's very obvious. It's very obvious you didn't know what you were talking about. But I'm gonna throw this out there. Since we talking about the Lord Stone disciple, and then you got to put up with this gangster disciple nonsense. See, the nag in my library. Now, I'm over here on ChicagoGangHistory.com, and we talking about the gangster disciple. So I got to scroll, because there's so much black disciple history before you even get to the formation of the supreme gangster. So I'm going to scroll. I got to scroll. Like I said, I got to scroll all the way down till you get past the unfair police treatment, because there's so much disciple history. So, we in the 60s, early 60s. Now that we began the story with the creation of the disciples, now let's look into the formation of the gangsters. This took place in Inglewood in the year 1964. More specifically at 68th and Green, a group of 30 young black youths got together at this intersection as they hung out in Larry Hoover's home and watched outside the window as gangsters and pimps hung out in the parking lot of the Guys and Gals nightclub that used to exist at their intersection. These boys wanted to be just like these pimps and gangsters, and they were living on the border of Ranger and Disciple territory. Larry Hoover was inspired to be a leader of gangsters and began dressing himself very well to fit the role. Eventually, these boys created their own club called the Supreme Gangsters, which was Larry Hoover's idea for the club name. Larry Hoover himself was not the first official leader, but more of a behind-the-scenes type leader. Hoover teamed up with street hustler Andrew D.D. Howard and King Ike Taylor and made King Ike his right-hand man. The Supreme Gangsters wore the color black, and their symbol were a heart with wings and a round crown with a sword going through it. The Supreme Gangsters saluted each other with their clenched fists as their hand sign. 1964. Watching other people. Got so much history, disciple history. I had to scroll all the way down till I got past the unfair police treatment. Then you want to talk about this little kid named Larry Hoover. And then I was just scrolling through there. Couldn't help but notice that in the year 1961, 14-year-old David Barksdale took over leadership of over the Devil's Disciples. And he directly oversaw the Inglewood branch of the Disciples. Barksdale appointed Mingo as president of the Disciples in Hyde Park and Kenwood. They became known as East Side Disciples. The oldest street gang in the city of Chicago is the Vice Lord. See, when you talk about this nagging my library, see, that what it wasn't no reason. It wasn't no reason for that. You see all these lords, stones, disciples. The disciples. Wasn't no reason for that. You can't lie. What time is it? Okay. But see, it's necessary that things like that be done. Because see, when you living in the community, see, you see all this blood gang, crip gang. See, it wasn't necessary. You ain't gonna never, ever say that it was a reason for that. Because it wasn't. It wasn't. Because see, when you talk about the history, you seeing people from the South, from Alabama, you seeing people from Tennessee, you seeing people from Mississippi, you seeing people from Louisiana, you seeing people from Texas, seeing people from Arkansas, Mississippi, all going out to California. Some of them people, family members, were living in the state of Illinois, in the city of Chicago. Some of them moved to surrounding states like Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, Indianapolis, because the factories, the warehouse and things like that, it was jobs instead of being down in the South, sharecropping, working in the cotton fields. They can leave and go up north. But some, instead of going up north, they went out west. Not just to the city of Los Angeles. Some went to San Diego and San Francisco and so on and so forth. You see, it's important. The history is important. All this lying, trying to use Gnosticism. Be lying. And look at all these people that's coming to America. In every community, you got this blood gang, crip gang. You got Lord's and Stone Disciple. And then you try to lie. Now, so like I said, you try to lie. People come to the United States of America, and a lot of people don't be aware of history. They don't be aware of history. They just come to America. They're looking for supposedly a better way of life from where they came from. And I can hear things like people coming from some of these nations around the world, wars and things of this nature being fought, and you just want to leave that, that madness and just be able to come to America and have a better life. But coming to America, you don't have knowledge of the history of America. You may be aware of slavery. You know, a lot of people around the world be aware of slavery and things of that nature. But specific, detailed history, a lot of people don't be aware. Now, all this stuff about entertainment and, you know, you see all these different people being up on front, you know, being on television and things like that. But you don't know the detailed history of America. You don't know the details. See, that's what a lot of Asian American, Pacific Islanders, you don't know the details of America. Just like the history of Chicago. You don't know the details of the history of Chicago. See, Lord Stone Disciple is not dead. It's not inactive. It's still alive. You can't lie. What time is it? See, what I'm gonna do today gonna be one of them days. I'm gonna summarize a little bit because I spend a little more time on something else in my reading, but I'm still gonna get to the point. Just like Jewish principles of faith, Judaism does not centralize authority in any single individual or group. And then let me finish what I was saying. Now, you know, you got people that come to America like Asian Americans or Pacific Islanders. Well, the Pacific Islanders, you know, like Samoans, and they part of America, or Hawaiians, Samoans. You got U.S. Virgin Islands, you know, things like that. But, you know, it's important because you try to influence people in a negative way. In a negative way. Just like this Crip gang, this Blood gang. Now, the Black Prince Stones that in Los Angeles, T. Roger, as you know, came from Chicago. Now, it was people already living in Chicago, you know, living in Los Angeles, you know, things of nature. A lot of them people, like I said, they not from California. They from somewhere down south. From Texas, Louisiana, and so on forth, Alabama, Tennessee, Mississippi, Arkansas, even Missouri, things of that nature. That's where they came from. They're trying to use Gnosticism, trying to use this Nagamite library. They didn't even have possession of the Nagamite library, but you had people going around talking about stuff. You were lying. That's what you were doing, lying. Victimizing men, women, and children. Lying. Just like First American, Native American, Indigenous American, right here in the United States of America. And what they've experienced, you know. And, you know, same thing. Lies. Lord Stone Disciple is Lord Stone Disciple. Gnosticism, Nagamite library is not no reason for anything. It's a lie. It's a lie. They try to use violence. That was the gang. Try to use violence. Little boys and little girls go to school. Bullying. Try to use violence. Young men, young women graduate high school. They go to college. What you have in college? Hazing. The sorority and the fraternity. Hazing. Violence. Just in the community period. What you have? The gang. Violence. And let's not leave out bigotry, prejudice, and racism, organized crime in the community. Now, like I said, get back to Jewish principle of faith. Judaism does not centralize authority in any single individual or group. The formulation of principles of faith that are universally recognized by all branches of Judaism remains undefined. There is no central authority in Judaism in existence today, although the Sanhedrin, the supreme Jewish religious court, would fulfill this role if it were reestablished. Instead, Judaism's principles of faith remain debated by the rabbis based on their understanding of the sacred writing, laws, and traditions, which collectively shape its theological and ethical framework. The most accepted version, in the extent, is the opinion of Maimonides. Now, we over here on Wikipedia. Let me had to remind myself, scroll down. All right, we got references. All right, references and further reading. Okay, we're on Wikipedia. Now we can go to Encyclopedia Britannica. It'll be basically the same thing. Might be worded a little bit different, but it's gonna still mean the same thing. Yeah, if you want to get all formal about it, we can go on over to the library and get some books. Now, Judaism affirms the existence and uniqueness of God and stresses performance of deeds or commandments alongside adherence to a strict belief system. In contrast, religions such as Christianity, which demand a more explicit identification of God. Faith in Judaism require one, to honor God through adherence to God's instructions, Torah, and the practice of all of the mitzvah. Orthodox Judaism stresses a number of core principles in its education program. Most importantly, they believe that there is one single, omniscient, transcendent, non-compound God who created the universe and continues to be concerned with its governance. Traditional Judaism maintains that God established a covenant with the Jewish people at Mount Sinai and revealed his law in 613 commandments to them in the form of the written and oral Torah. In Rabbinic Judaism, the Torah consists of both the written Torah, Pentateuch, and the tradition of oral law, much of it later codified in sacred writings, Mishnah or Talmud. Now, tradition and practice of Judaism has been devoted to the study of Torah and observance of its laws and commandments. In normative Judaism, the Torah and hence Jewish law itself is unchanged, but interpretation of the law is more open. It is considered a mitzvah, commandment, to study and understand the law. The proper counterpart for the general English term faith, as occurring in the expression principle of faith, would be the concept of emunah. In Judaism, the word amen comes from this word and means I trust, believe. While it is generally translated as faith or trust in God, the concept of emunah can more accurately be described as innate conviction, a perception of truth that transcends reason. Emunah can be enhanced through wisdom, knowledge, understanding, and learning of sacred Jewish writings. But emunah is not simply based on reason, nor can it be understood as the opposite of or standing in contrast to reason. There are a number of basic principles that were formulated by medieval rabbinic authorities that are put forth as fundamental underpinnings inherent in the acceptance and practice of Judaism. Now, the concept of God, monotheism, the foundation, monotheism. Judaism is based on a strict monotheism and a belief in one single, indivisible, non-compound God. The Shema Yisrael, one of the most important Jewish prayers, encapsulate the monotheistic nature of Judaism. Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God. The Lord is one. Judaism emphatically rejects any concept of plurality with respect to God, explicitly rejecting polytheism, dualism, and Trinitarianism, which are incompatible in monotheism as Judaism understands it. The unity of God is stated many times in Jewish tradition. It is the second of Maimonides' 13 principles of faith. Maimonides wrote that this God is one, not two or more than two, but one, whose unity is different from all other unities that there are. He is not one as a genus, which contains many species. He is one, nor is he one as a body, containing parts and dimensions, is one. But he is a unity that which there is no other anywhere. Yeah, Yisodi, HaTorah, 1:7. In Jewish tradition, dualistic and Trinitarian conceptions of God are generally referred to as Satuf, partnership, meaning an incorrect but not an idolatrous view. God is the creator of the universe. Now, most Jews believe that God is creator of the universe, and different sets of Jews view this in different ways. For example, some ultra-Orthodox groups reject the concept of evolution and believe the earth to be only a few thousand years old. Other groups of Orthodox and non-Orthodox Jews do not believe in a literal interpretation of the Genesis creation narrative, and according to that view, Judaism is not in contradiction to the scientific model that states that the age of the universe is around 13.77 billion years old. Norbert M. Samuelson writes, the question of dating the universe has never been a problem of Jewish philosophy. Ultimately, because that philosophy has never taken the literal meaning of the Bible to be its revealed true meaning. Now, let me see. Okay, let me scroll down. Okay, so that was God's created universe, the nature of God. The Jewish view is that God is eternal, with neither beginning nor end, a principle stated in a number of biblical passages. The rabbis taught a quite literal and down-to-earth view of the eternalness of God, that God is eternal. But it's not given to man to explore the full meaning of this idea. And so, one cannot therefore expect to find in the rabbinic literature anything like a detailed examination of what is meant by divine eternity. A famous Mishnah statement on attempts to pierce the veil is this: whoever reflects on four things, it were better for him that he had not come into the world. What is above, what is beneath, what is before, and what is after. The traditional Jewish view is that God is omnipotent, omniscient, and omnibenevolent. All right, let me see. All right, let me scroll down. So that was the nature of God in Judaism. So now we're going to scroll down to soul devotion to the Creator. Within Judaism, the essence of worship is deeply rooted in the belief of monotheism, emphasizing the exclusive devotion to the Creator. This principle dictates that worship and reverence should be directed solely towards God. As articulated by Maimonides' fifth principle of faith, according to this belief, no entity aside from the Creator is deemed worthy of worship. All right, so that was the sole devotion to the Creator in Judaism. Now, Revelation. Scripture. The Hebrew Bible, or Tanakh, is the Jewish scriptural canon and central source of Jewish law. The word is an acronym formed from the initial Hebrew letters of the three traditional subdivisions of the Tanakh. The Torah, teaching also known as the 5 books of Moses or Pentateuch. The Nevi'im, prophets, and the Ketuvim, writings. The Tanakh contains 24 books in all. Its authoritative version is the Masoretic text. Tradition, the text of the Tanakh was said to have been finalized at the Council of Jamnia in 70 CE. Although this is uncertain, in Judaism the term Torah refers not only to the 5 books of Moses, but also to all of the Jewish scripts, the whole of Tanakh, and the ethical and moral instruction of the rabbi, the oral Torah. In addition to the Tanakh, there are 2 further textual traditions in Judaism: Mishnah, tractates expound on Jewish law, and the Talmud, commentary of Mishnah and Torah. These are both codifications and redactions of the Jewish oral tradition and major works in rabbinic Judaism. The Talmud consists of the Babylonian Talmud, produced in Babylon around 600 CE, and the Jerusalem Talmud, produced in the land of Israel circa 400 CE. The Babylonian Talmud is the more extensive of the two and is considered the more important. The Talmud is a representation of the Torah through sustained analysis and argument with unfolding dialogue and contention between rabbinic sages. The Talmud consists of the Mishnah, a legal code, and the Gemara, Aramaic for learning, and analysis and commentary to that code. Rabbi Adin Steinsaltz write that if the Bible is the cornerstone of Judaism, then the Talmud is the central pillar. No other work has had a comparable influence on the theory and practice of Jewish life, shaping influence on the theory and practice of Jewish life in states. The Talmud is the repository of 1,000 years of Jewish wisdom and the oral law, which is as ancient and significant as the written law. The Torah finds expression therein. It is a conglomerate of law, legend, and philosophy, a blend of unique logic and shrewd pragmatism, of history and science, anecdotes and humor, although its main objective is to interpret and comment on a book of law. It is simultaneously a work of art that goes beyond legislation and its practical application. And although the Talmud is, to this day, the primary source of Jewish law, it cannot be cited as an authority for purposes of ruling. All right, so that was revelation in Judaism. Now we're going to go down here to Moses and the Torah. Orthodox and conservative Jews hold that the prophecy of Moses is held to be true. He is held to be the chief of all prophets, even of those who came before and after him. This belief was expressed by Maimonides, who wrote that Moses was superior to all prophets, whether they preceded him or arose afterwards. Moses attained the highest possible human level. He perceived God to a degree surpassing every human that ever existed. God spoke to all other prophets through an intermediary. Moses alone did not need this. This is what the Torah means when God says, mouth to mouth, I will speak to him. The great Jewish philosopher Philo understands this type of prophecy to be an extraordinarily high level of philosophical understanding which had been reached by Moses and which enabled him to write the Torah through his own rational deduction of natural law. Maimonides described a similar concept of prophecy. Since a voice did not originate from a body, cannot exist. The understanding of Moses was based on his lofty philosophical understanding. However, this does not imply that the text of the Torah should be understood literally, as according to charisma, rabbinic tradition maintained that God conveyed not only the words of the Torah, but the meaning of the Torah. God gave rules as to how the law would be understood and implemented, and these were passed down as an oral tradition. This oral law was passed down from generation to generation and ultimately written down almost 2,000 years later in the Mishnah and the two Talmuds. Now, for Reformed Jews, the prophecy of Moses was not the highest degree of prophecy. Rather, it was the first in a long chain of progressive revelation in which mankind gradually began to understand the will of God better and better. As such, they maintain that the laws of Moses are no longer binding, and it is today's generation that must assess what God wants of them. This principle also rejected by most Reconstructionist Jews, but for a different reason. Most posit that God is not a being with a will. Thus, they maintain that no will can be revealed. So that's Moses and the Torah in Judaism, and the origin of the Torah. The Torah is composed of 5 books called in English Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. They chronicle the history of the Hebrews and also contain the commandments that Jews are to follow. Rabbinic Judaism holds that the Torah extant today is the same one that was given to Moses by God on Mount Sinai. Maimonides explained, we do not know exactly how the Torah was transmitted to Moses, but when it was transmitted, Moses merely wrote it down like a secretary taking dictation. Thus, every verse in the Torah is equally holy, and they all originate from God and are all part of God's Torah, which is perfect, holy, and true. Now, Haredi Jews generally believe that the Torah today is no different from what was received from God to Moses, with only the most minor or scribal errors. Many other Orthodox Jews suggest that over the millennia, some scribal errors have crept into the Torah's text. They note that the Masoretes 7th to 10th centuries compared all known Torah variations in order to create a definitive text. However, even according to this position, that the scrolls that Jews possess today are not letter perfect. The Torah scrolls are certain the word perfect textus receptus that was divinely revealed to Moses. Indeed, the general consensus of Orthodox rabbinic authority possess that belief in the word perfect nature of the Torah scroll is a defining feature of Orthodox Judaism. And so that's the origin of the Torah. Now, when it comes to prophecy, Jews believe that the Almighty created a time choose to prophesy. Many of such occurrences are described in the Nevi'im, the books of the prophets. However, since the destruction of the first temple, prophecy has ceased. Now, you have the oral Torah. Orthodox Jews view the written and oral Torah as the same as Moses taught for all practical purposes. Conservative Jews tend to believe that much of the oral law is divinely inspired, while Reform and Reconstructionist Jews tend to view all of the oral law as an entirely human creation. Traditionally, the Reform movement held that Jews were obliged to obey the ethical but not the ritual commandments of Scripture. Although today many Reform Jews have adopted many traditional ritual practice, Karate Jews traditionally consider the written Torah to be authoritative. Excuse me. Viewing the oral law as only one possible interpretation of the written Torah, most modern Orthodox Jews will agree that while certain laws within the oral law were given to Moses, most of the Talmudic laws were derived originally organically by the rabbis of the Mishnah and Talmudic eras. God's relationship with men. Judaism focuses more on how God defines men than one trying to define God. There is therefore a focus on what people are expected to be or do far more than on spelling out theological beliefs. People are born, and now that's God's relationship with men. Now we're going to get into this. People are born with both a tendency to do good and to do evil. Now, Jewish tradition mostly emphasizes free will, and most Jewish thinkers will reject determinism on the basis that free will and the exercise of free choice have been considered a precondition of moral life. Moral indeterminacy seems to be assumed both by the Bible, which bids man to choose between good and evil, and by the rabbis who hold the decision for following the good inclination rather than the evil rests with every individual. Maimonides asserted the compatibility of free will with foreknowledge of God. Only a handful of Jewish thinkers have expressed deterministic views. This group includes the medieval Jewish philosopher Hasdai Krekas and the 19th century Hasidic rabbi Mordecai Yosef Leiner of Izbika. All is necessary for God because he is perfect, but for mankind all is possible by virtue of choice. The two types of view are true with knowing about the prophet who is in Dvika with God to be wise and to perform miracles for him. Now, Judaism affirms that people are born with both a Yisra Hatov, an inclination or impulse to do good, and with a Yisra Hara, an inclination or impulse to do evil. These phrases reflect the concept that within each person there are opposing natures, continuing conflict, and are referenced many times in the rabbinic tradition. The rabbis even recognize a positive value to the Yetzer Hara. Without the Yetzer Hara, there would be no civilization or other fruits of human labor. Midrash states, without the evil inclination, no one will father a child, build a house, or make a career. The implication is that Yetzer Hatov and Yetzer Hara are best understood not only as moral categories of good and evil, but as the inherent conflict within man between selfless and selfish orientation. Judaism recognized two classes of sin: offenses against other people and offenses against God. Offense against God may be understood as violation of a contract, the covenant between God and the children of Israel. Once a person has sinned, there are various means by which they may obtain atonement. Judaism rejects the belief in original sin. Both ancient and modern Judaism teach that every person is responsible for his own actions. The existence of some innate sinfulness on each human being was discussed in both biblical and post-biblical sources. However, in a biblical verse, this is brought as an argument for divine mercy, as humans cannot be blamed for the nature they were created with. Some apocryphal and pseudepigraphic sources express pessimism about human nature. A grain of evil seed was sown in Adam's heart from the beginning. In the Talmud, Avodah Zarah 22b has an unusual passage which Elber Kessler describes as the serpent seduced Eve in paradise and impregnated her with spiritual, physical dirt, which was inherited through the generation. But the revelation at Sinai and the reception of the Torah cleansed Israel. Kessler states that although it is clear that belief in some form of original sin did exist in Judaism, it did not become mainstream teaching nor dogmatically fixed, but remained at the margins of Judaism. Now, and so we just got to, what was that? People are born with both a tendency to do good and evil, and do evil. Now, reward and punishment. The mainstream Jewish view that God will reward those who observe his commandments and punish those who intentionally transgress them. Examples of rewards and punishment are described throughout the Bible and throughout classical rabbinic literature. The common understanding of this principle is accepted by most Orthodox and conservative and many Reformed Jews. It is generally rejected by the Reconstructionists. The Bible contains reference to Sheol, literally gloom, as the common destination of the dead, which may be compared with the Hades or underworld of ancient religion. In later tradition, this is interpreted either as hell or as a literary expression for death or the grave in general. Now, according to a Gaelic passage in the Talmud, God judges who has followed his commandments and who does not, and to what extent. Those who do not pass the test go to a purifying place, sometimes referred to as Gehinnom, hell, but more analogous to the Christian purgatory, to learn their lesson. There is, however, for the most part, no eternal damnation. The vast majority of souls only go to that reforming place for a limited amount of time, less than 1 year. Certain categories are spoken of as having no part in the world to come, but this appears to mean annihilation rather than an eternity of torment. Philosophical rationalists such as Maimonides believe that God did not actually mete out rewards and punishments as such. In this view, these were beliefs that were necessary for the masses to believe in order to maintain a structured society and to encourage the observance of Judaism. However, once one learned Torah properly, one could then learn the higher truth. In this view, the nature of the reward is that if a person perfected his intellect to the highest degree, then the part of his intellect that connected to God, the active intellect, will be immortalized and enjoy the glory of the present for all eternity. The punishment would simply be that this would not happen. No part of one's intellect will be immortalized with God. The Kabbalah, mystical tradition in Judaism, contains further elaboration, though some Jews do not consider these authoritative. For example, It admits the possibility of reincarnation, which is generally rejected by non-mystical Jewish theologians and philosophers. It also believes in a triple soul, of which the lowest level, nefesh or animal life, dissolves into the elements. The middle layer, ruach or intellect, goes to Gan Eden, paradise, while the highest level, the Shama or spirit, seeks union with God. Some Jews consider tikkun olam, or repairing the world, as a fundamental motivating factor in Jewish ethics. Therefore, the concept of life after death in the Jewish view is not encouraged as the motivating factor in performance of Judaism. Indeed, it is held that one can attain closeness to God even in this world through moral and spiritual perfection. Now, the Messiah. Judaism acknowledges an afterlife, but does not have a single or systemic way of thinking about the afterlife. Judaism places its overwhelming stress on Olam Hazi, this world, rather than Olam Haba, the world to come. And speculations about the world to come are peripheral to mainstream Judaism. In Pirkei Avot, Ethics of the Fathers, it is said that 1 hour of penitence and good deeds in this world is better than all the life of the world to come. But 1 hour of spiritual repose in the world to come is better than all the life of this world, reflecting both a view of the significance of life on earth and the spiritual repose granted to the righteous in the next world. Jews rejected the idea that Jesus of Nazareth was the Messiah and agreed that the Messiah has not yet come. Throughout Jewish history, there have been a number of Jewish Messiah claimants considered false by Jews, including most notably Simon Bar Kokhba and Sabati Zivi, whose followers were known as Sabbateans. The 12 of Maimonides' 13 principles of faith was, I believe, with perfect faith in the coming of the Messiah, Mashiach, and though he may tarry, still I await him every day. Orthodox Jews believe that a future Jewish Messiah, the Mashiach, anointed one, will be a king who will rule the Jewish people independently according to Jewish law. In the traditional view, the Messiah was understood to be a human descendant of King David, that is, of the Davidic line. Liberal Reform Judaism does not believe in the arrival of a personal Messiah who will ingather the exiles in the land of Israel and cause a physical resurrection of the dead. Rather, Reform Jews focus on a future age in which there is a perfected world of justice and mercy. So like I said, I want to make, continue. When I leave my video, I intentionally talk about the Jewish principle of faith and continue to read from Wikipedia, or I can go to Encyclopedia Britannica or other sources online, whatever. We can go to the library. Now we're still over here on Wikipedia. Now we're gonna deal with this dualism in cosmology. Let me scroll down. All right, we got see also footnotes, bibliography, external links, and so on and so forth. So, like I said, we're finna go into this dualism in cosmology, but all this stuff about some Gnosticism and all that nonsense. Look here, Jewish mysticism. And also Christian mysticism. So, like I said, we're on this dualism in cosmology. Okay? Dualism in cosmology or dualistic cosmology is the moral or spiritual belief that two fundamental concepts exist which often oppose each other. It is an umbrella term that covers a diversity of views from various religions, including both traditional religions and scriptural religions. Okay? Moral dualism is the belief of the great complement of or conflict between the benevolent and the malevolent. It simply implies that there are two moral opposites at work, independent of any interpretation of what might be moral and independent of how these may be represented. Moral opposites might, for example, exist in a worldview that has one God, more than one God, or none. By contrast, duotheism, bitheism, or ditheism implies at least two gods. While bitheism implies harmony, ditheism implies rivalry and opposition, such as between good and evil, or light and dark, or summer and winter. For example, a ditheistic system could be one in which one God is a creator and the other a destroyer. In theology, dualism can also refer to the relationship between the deity and creation, or the deity and the universe. See theistic dualism. That form of dualism is a belief shared in certain traditions of Christianity and Hinduism. Alternatively, in ontological dualism, the world is divided into two overarching categories. Within Chinese culture and philosophy, the opposition and combination of the universe's two basic principles are expressed as yin and yang. In our traditionally foundational doctrine of Taoism, Confucianism, and some Chinese Buddhist schools, many myths and creation motifs with dualistic cosmology have been described in ethnographic and anthropological literature. The motifs conceive the world as being created, organized, or influenced by two demiurges, culture heroes, or other mythological beings who compete with each other or have a complementary function in creating, arranging, or influencing the world. There is a huge diversity of such cosmology. In some cases, such as among the Chukchi, the beings collaborate rather than compete, and they contribute to the creation in a co-equal way. In many other instances, the two beings are not of the same importance or power. Sometimes one of them is even characterized as gullible. Sometimes they can be contrasted as good versus evil. They may be often believed to be twins or at least brothers. Dualistic motives and mythologies can be observed in all inhabited continents. Zolotarjov concludes that they cannot be explained by diffusion or borrowing, but are rather of convergent origin. They are related to a dualistic organization of society, moieties. In some cultures, the social organization may have ceased to exist, but mythology preserve the memory in more and more disguised ways. Now, moral dualism. Moral dualism is the belief of the great complement or conflict between the benevolent and the malevolent, like ditheism, bitheism. Moral dualism does not imply the absence of monist or monotheistic principle. Moral dualism simply implies that there are two moral opposites at work, independent of any interpretation of what might be moral, and unlike ditheism, bitheism, independent of how these may be represented. For example, Mazdaism, Zoroastrianism is both dualistic and monotheistic, but not monist by definition, since in that philosophy God, the creator, is purely good, and the antithesis, which is also uncreated, is an absolute one. Mandaism is monotheistic and Gnostic, and in its cosmology, the world of light, that is good, is contrasted with the world of darkness or underworld, that is evil. Zurbanite Zoroastrianism, and Manichaeism are representative of dualistic and monist philosophy, since each has a supreme and transcendental first principle from which the two equal but opposite entities then emanate. This is also true for the lesser known Christian Gnostic religions such as Bogomils, Catharism, and so on. More complex forms of monist dualism also exist. For instance, in Hermetism, where Nous thought that is described to have created man brings forth both good and evil, dependent on interpretation whether it receives prompting from the God or from the demon. Duality with pluralism is considered a logical fallacy. Now, the history. Moral dualism began as a theological belief. Dualism was first seen implicitly in Egyptian religious beliefs by the contrast of the gods Set, disorder and death, and Osiris, order and life. The first explicit conception of dualism came from the ancient Persian religion of Zoroastrianism around the mid-5th century BC. Zoroastrianism is a monotheistic religion that believes that Ahura Mazda is the eternal creator of all good things. Any violation of Ahura Mazda's order arises from Druj, which is everything uncreated. From this comes a significant choice for humans to make. Either they fully participate in human life for Ahura Mazda or they do not, and give Druj power. Personal dualism is even more distinct in the beliefs of later religions. The religious dualism of Christianity between good and evil is not a perfect dualism, as God, good, and inevitably destroy Satan, evil. Early Christian dualism is largely based on Platonic dualism. See Neoplatonism and Christianity. There's also a personal dualism in Christianity with a soul-body distinction based on the idea of an immaterial Christian soul. Now, duotheism and bitheism and ditheism. When used with regards to multiple gods, dualism may refer to duotheism, bitheism, or ditheism. Although ditheism and bitheism imply moral dualism. They are not equivalent. Ditheism, bitheism implies at least two gods, while moral dualism does not necessarily imply theism, theos equals God, at all. Both bitheism and ditheism imply belief in two equally powerful gods with complementary or autonomous properties. However, while bitheism implies harmony, ditheism implies rivalry and opposition, such as between good and evil, bright and dark, or summer and winter. For example, a ditheistic system would be one in which one God is creative, the other is destructive. Theodicy. In the original conception of Zoroastrianism, for example, Ahura Mazda was the spirit of ultimate good, while Ahriman Angra Mania was the spirit of ultimate evil. In a bitheistic system, by contrast, where the two deities are not in conflict or opposition, one could be male and the other female. Duotheism, one well-known example of a bitheistic or duotheistic theology based on gender polarity, is found in the neo-pagan religion of Wicca. In Wicca, dualism is represented in the belief of a god and a goddess as a dual partnership in ruling the universe. This is centered on the worship of a divine couple, the moon goddess and the horn god, who are regarded as lovers. However, there is also a ditheistic theme within traditional Wicca, as the horn god has dual aspects of bright and dark, relating to day and night, summer, winter, expressed as the oak king and the holy king, who in Wiccan myth and ritual are said to engage in battle twice a year for the hand of the goddess, resulting in the changing season. Within Wicca, bright and dark do not correspond to notions of good and evil, but are aspects of the natural world, much like yin and yang in Taoism. Now, radical and mitigated dualism. Radical dualism or absolute dualism, which posits two co-equal divine forces. Manichaeism conceives of two previously coexisting realms of light and darkness, which become embroiled in conflict owing to the chaotic actions of the latter. Subsequently, certain elements of the light became entrapped within darkness. The purpose of material creation is to enact the slow process of extraction of these individual elements, at the end of which the kingdom of light will prevail over darkness. Manichaeism likely inherits this dualistic mythology from Zoroastrianism, in which the eternal spirit of Ahura Mazda is opposed by his antithesis, Angra Mainyu. The two are engaged in a cosmic struggle, the conclusion of which will likewise see Ahura Mazda triumphant. The hymn of the pearl included the belief that the material world corresponds to some sort of malevolent intoxication brought about by the powers of darkness to keep elements of the light trapped inside it in a state of drunken distraction. Now, mitigated dualism is where one of the two principles is in some way inferior to the other. Such classical Gnostic movements as the Sethians conceived of the material world as being created by a lesser divinity than the true God that was the object of their devotion. The spiritual world is conceived of as being radically different from the material world, coextensive with the true God and the true home of certain enlightened members of humanity. Thus, these systems were expressive of a feeling of acute alienation within the world, and their resultant aim was to allow the soul to escape the constraints presented by the physical realm. However, bitheistic and ditheistic principles are not always so easily contrastable. For instance, in a system where one God is the representative of summer and drought, and the other of winter and rain fertility, the mythology of Persephone Marcionism, an early Christian sect, held that the Old and New Testament were the work of two opposing gods. Both were first principles, but of different religions. Now, theistic dualism. In theology, dualism can refer to the relationship between God and creation or God and the universe. This form of dualism is a belief shared in certain traditions of Christianity and Hinduism. Zoroastrianism or Mahayana is one of the world's oldest continuously practiced religions, based on the teachings of the Iranian-speaking prophet Zoroaster. It has a dualistic cosmology of good and evil, and an eschatology which predicts the ultimate conquest of evil by good. Zoroastrianism exalts an uncreated and benevolent deity of wisdom known as Ahura Mazda, wise Lord, as its supreme being. Manichaeism was a major religion founded in the 3rd century AD by the Parthian prophet Mani, 216-274 AD. In the Sasanian Empire, Manichaeism taught an elaborate dualistic cosmology describing the struggle between a good spiritual world of light and an evil material world of darkness through an ongoing process that takes place in human history. Light is gradually removed from the world of matter and returned to the world of light, whence it came. Its beliefs were based on local Mesopotamian religious movements, and Gnosticism. Now, in Christianity, the dualism between God and creation has existed as a central belief in multiple historical sects and traditions of Christianity, including Marcionism, Catharism, Paulicianism, and other forms of Gnostic Christianity. Christian dualism refers to the belief that God and creation are distinct but interrelated through an indivisible bond. However, Gnosticism is a diverse, syncretistic religious movement consisting of various belief systems, generally uniting the belief in a distinction between a supreme, transcendent God and a blind, evil demiurge responsible for creating the material universe, thereby trapping the divine spark within matter. Gnosticism is not limited to Christianity and also incorporates belief from other Abrahamic traditions such as early Jewish sects. In sects like the Cathars and the Paulicians, this is a dualism between the material world created by an evil God and a moral God. Historians divide Christian dualism into absolute dualism, which held that the good and evil gods were equally powerful, and mitigated dualism, which held that material evil was subordinate to the spiritual good. The belief by Christian theologians who adhere to a libertarian or compatibilistic view of free will, that free will separates humankind from God, has also been characterized as a form of dualism. The theologian Leroy Stevens Rorner compares the dualism of Christianity with the dualism that exists in Zoroastrianism and the Samkhya tradition of Hinduism. The theological use of the word dualism dates back to 1700 in a book that describes the dualism between good and evil. The tolerance of dualism ranges widely among the different Christian traditions. As a monotheistic religion, the conflict between dualism and monism has existed in Christianity since its inception. The 1912 Catholic Encyclopedia described that in the Catholic Church, the dualistic hypothesis of an eternal world existing side by side with God was, of course, rejected by the 13th century. But mind-body dualism was not. The problem of evil is difficult to reconcile with absolute monism and has prompted some Christians said to veer towards dualism. Gnostic forms of Christianity were more dualistic, and some Gnostic traditions posited that the devil was separate from God as an independent deity. The Christian dualists of the Byzantine Empire, the Paulicians, were seen as Manichaean heretics by Byzantine theologians. This tradition of Christian dualism, founded by Constantine and Sylvanus, argued that the universe was created through evil and separate from a moral God. Now you also have ontological dualism. Now we're going to touch on this mind-body dualism before I end today's video. Now, mind-body dualism. In the philosophy of mind-body dualism denotes either the view that mental phenomena are non-physical, or that the mind and body are distinct and separable. Thus, it encompasses a set of views about the relationship between mind and matter, as well as between subject and object, and is contrasted with other positions such as physicalism and enactivism in the mind-body problem. Now, Aristotle shared Plato's view of multiple souls and further elaborated a hierarchical arrangement corresponding to the distinctive functions of plants, animals, and humans, a nutritive soul of growth and metabolism that all three share. A perceptive soul of pain, pleasure, and desire that only humans and other animals share, and the faculty of reason that is unique to humans only. In this view, a soul is the holomorphic form of a viable organism, wherein each level of the hierarchy formally supervenes upon the substance of the preceding level. For Aristotle, the first two souls, based on the body, perish when the living organism dies, whereas there remains an immortal and perpetual intellective part of mind. For Plato, however, the soul was not dependent on the physical body. He believed in metempsychosis, the migration of the soul to a new physical body. It has been considered a form of reductionism by some philosophers, since it enables the tendency to ignore very big groups of variables by its assumed association with the mind or the body, and nor for its real value when it comes to explaining or predicting a studied phenomenon. Dualism is closely associated with the thought of Rene Descartes, 1641, who holds that the mind is a non-physical and therefore non-spatial substance. Descartes clearly identified the mind with consciousness and self-awareness and distinguished this from the physical brain as the seat of intelligence. Hence, he was the first documented Western philosopher to formulate the mind-body problem in the form which it exists today. However, the theory of substance dualism has many advocates in contemporary philosophy, such as Richard Swinburne, William Haskell, J.P. Moreland, E.J. Lowe, Charles Taliaferro, Sayed Jabir, Musaviri, and John Foster. Dualism is contrasted with various kinds of monism. Substance dualism is contrasted with all forms of materialism, but property dualism may be considered a form of emergent materialism or non-reductive physicalism in some sense. Now, types. Ontological dualism makes dual commitments about the nature of existence as it relates to mind and matter, and can be divided into three different types. Substance dualism asserts that mind and matter are fundamentally distinct kinds of foundations. Property dualism suggests that the ontological distinction lies in the difference between properties of mind and matter, as in emergentism. And predicate dualism claims the irreducibility of mental predicates to physical predicates. And so, like I said, they have these substance dualism or substance or Cartesian dualism asserts that mind and matter are fundamentally distinct kinds of foundation. And there are several types of substance dualism. Most substance dualists hold the view that the mind and body are capable of causally affecting each other, known as interactionism. Notable defenders of substance dualism include John Foster Stuart Goetz, Richard Swinburne, and Charles Tagliaferro, and so on and so on. And so, and then you have, again, property dualism asserts that an ontological distinction lies in the difference between properties of mind and matter, and that consciousness may be ontologically irreducible to neurobiology and physics. And then again, you have this non-reductive physicalism, epiphenomenalism, and predicate dualism is a view espoused by such non-reductive physicalists as Donald Davidson and Jerry Fodor, who maintain that while there is only one ontological category of substances and properties of substances usually physical, the predicates that we use to describe mental events cannot be redescribed in terms of or reduced to physical predicates of natural language. And so, like I said, we're going to come back on this mind-body dualism. But you can't mix Judaism and Gnosticism. Ain't no such thing. Because like Rabbi Akiva, way back in the mid to late first century, do not support Gnosticism. Rabbi Akiva did not want Gnosticism to have any influence on Judaism. Did not want that Grecian philosophy or Gnosticism to have any influence, including the intellectual stuff, to be an influence on Judaism. And when it comes to the Catholic Church has never tolerated Gnosticism. You cannot be a Catholic Gnostic. Ain't no such thing. And when it comes to this so-called Protestant stuff, now you might try that nonsense. You're gonna still no, you ain't right. That with the Cathars and all that Paulicians and all this Martianism stuff. See, you don't get away with that. No. That's the reason why the Catholic Church had all these in Europe, all these religious wars in Europe, because the Catholic Church will not tolerate that Gnostic nonsense. It just want, and all this stuff talking about some Protestant Reformation, it caused war. There was a war. The Catholic Church did not tolerate Martin Luther. And like we talked about Martin Luther, I know I spent a little more time on Lord Stone Disciple today, but it's important. See, that's the reason why it's important, the influence. See, you try to negatively influence people with all this nonsense. Because all it is a lie. You just lie. And by us as being black Americans or slash African Americans, slash black Americans, I don't know, look. Being brought over here to be slaves. Now, you know you had the Arab or East African slave trade. And then you had the West African or transatlantic slave trade. You understand? And all this stuff down in Mexico, Central and South America, the Caribbean. Here it is, the United States of America and Canada. Here in the Western world. Slavery. Now, that don't mean that you negate all the first and Native American and indigenous America and the atrocities. But all this stuff being denied education, and then having some person trying to negatively influence you with slavery. With slavery. They deny you education and then gonna try to teach you to be a slave. But like I said, you know, I spent a little more time on Lord Stone Disciple. But we're gonna come back on this mind-body dualism and things of that nature. But you know, Judaism had to have that foundation on monotheism. You had to have that foundation. And so I'm gonna get ready to end today's video today. Again, my name is Eric D. Johnson, also known as BrightShine, right here in the city of Memphis in the county, Sheriff, state of Tennessee. Thank all my fans, my support, for continuing to support. I want to thank my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, Son of God, for all the blessings and the guidance He provides all with. And continue to pray. Continue to pray for peace. There are wars being fought all over the world. Continue to pray for peace. You know, just continue to pray. And pray for peace. That these wars will end. And people all over the world can live in peace with one another. I know myself as well as everybody else has had the opportunity to enjoy the Summer Olympics this year. 4 more years, the Olympics will be here in the United States and in Los Angeles. 4 more years from now. I think the Winter Olympics coming like 2 years. I think every 2 after the Summer Olympics, it'd be like the Winter Olympics be like 2 years later. But you know, the Winter Olympics is coming, is next. The Winter Olympics. And so I like, you know, so like I say, the Olympics itself, Summer Olympics and Winter Olympics are very good. And so now had to adjust my phone there. But it's good. It's a good thing. Because it's a very beautiful thing when you sit there and watch and you can just see people from all over the world just competing. You know, just being good athletes, you know. And that's it. Just being good athletes. Competing for the gold medal, for the silver medal, and for the bronze medal. I mean, it's a very beautiful thing to see people from all over the world, and then they added more competitions. I think that's very beautiful. You know, the culture and customs from people all over the world. You know, and every person from all over the world had the opportunity to compete for a gold medal, silver medal, bronze medal, and just compete. And many people from all over the world, not just here in America, as if the United States is just more technologically advanced, which gives you an advantage. But people from all over the world are competing in every, you know, in the majority of the competitions from all over the world, you know. And it's just a beautiful thing to see people from all over the world compete, being able to have an opportunity to compete, regardless of what nation they come from, what religion they come from, you know, what language they speak. It's just people from all over the world, and that's the beauty of the Olympics, Winter Olympics and Summer Olympics. It's beautiful, man. And you know, it's just that's the progress. If there's anything that's been advanced, if there's any progress that you see in people from all over the world in the Olympics. I know that Summer Olympics, you see more people from around the world. The Winter Olympics, a lot of nations don't have winter, so that I think that's one of the things that where you see mostly the European people, because usually the European nations have a winter. So you know, just like here in the United States of America, we have 4 seasons. The summertime here in America, so you're gonna see all the people that live here in America, people that go to colleges, you know, live in America. You're gonna see that this type of people when you go to the Olympics in the summer. Now, when it comes to Winter Olympics, it's gonna be like you see more people of a European, but it's not like people are barred. Most people, a lot of people that live in other parts of the world, they don't have a winter. So those type of sports are not necessarily, being involved in skiing. Well, you don't have a winter in Africa, in Central and South America, Mexico. You ain't gonna see that. You ain't gonna see snow and but it don't mean that you barred. It's just you don't have that type of weather. That's where all the events coming from. So, but that don't mean you barred. So the progress, the advances and progress, later on you'll probably see people living in all these other parts of the world, and they'll still be able to compete in the Winter Olympics as well. That's the advance and progress. They'll make it where you can still train to compete, to compete in the Winter Olympics, despite the fact that you don't even have winter weather. But that's the advancement and that's the progress, So I'm gonna get ready to end today's video. I'm just gonna, hopefully, I come back next weekend and I make my video again. Like I said today, I spent a little more time on Lord Stone Disciple, which is right, because Lord Stone Disciple is still Lord Stone Disciple. It is. See, you can't lie, and that's what we just got to do going over. See, you tried to lie. People tried to lie. A lot of men and women during that period of time in the African American didn't have no education. You took advantage of. People lied to you. That's where that supreme gangster mess came from. Just lied. That's all there is to it. And then lied to the lords and the stones and the disciples. You just lie. In general to people. No, that's organized crime. Bigotry, prejudice, and racism. Organized crime. Slavery. Organized crime. But I'm gonna get ready to end today's video. I gotta give me something to eat, man. I know I be making my video, look, in a way I kind of been saying, I try to adjust my weekends and, this way. But, anyway, till next time, you take care of yourself. Wish each and every one of you very best.